Your hand has a magnificent power, and it's not what you think. Are you tired of feeling overwhelmed, like you need to just keep doing more and more? Growth is not about adding more, but about focusing on the few things that make the biggest difference. I'm going to share with you something called strategic development, and this is a simple yet powerful approach to personal mastery. This is broken down into 5 essential parts. Yes, your hand. Each one of these, your fingers and your thumb, play a huge role, and you're just not aware of it right now. And with these 5 core principles, you'll learn how to achieve more by doing less, because you're focusing on what matters and what really moves the needle. Let's look at how you can become your best self. Why is progress so important to you? Well, Harvard research looked into this, and what they discovered was something called the progress principle. And the single biggest motivator was making progress on meaningful work, something that truly mattered to you. Harvard research found that even small wins produced increased motivation. On the other hand, lack of progress was devastating. It could lead to depression. You would put less effort into something. You would have helplessness or learned helplessness. You'd have sleep disturbances. You'd have less happiness. And people were overall more pessimistic. So it's critical you have a system to help you make progress. Strategic development identifies and prioritizes the actions that lead to meaningful results. It involves creating a clear vision, setting specific goals, and having practical steps to move towards those goals. Strategic development helps you master the few essential skills that impacts your life. By focusing on doing less, you can have a clear path to success, fulfillment, and purpose. I figured we all have a hand, and that's an easy visual reminder, so let's use that to our advantage. And to start off with, we have the thumb, and the thumb is focusing on purpose. It keeps you anchored on what truly matters. Second is your index finger, and that is on consistency. This guides you towards consistent action. Number 3 is your middle finger, and this is emotional regulation. This helps you stay balanced and resilient. Number 4 is relationships, your ring finger, and you want relationships that support meaningful connections. Number 5 is your pinky, and this helps you on reflection. You can clear away what doesn't belong to you so your best self can shine through. Each part is simple to incorporate, making growth both practical and effective without overwhelming you. My father-in-law worked for the Forest Service, and he did a lot of work with water systems to get people clean water. When he retired, he developed Alzheimer's. One day I was over at his house in his living room, and he seemed very agitated. And when I looked at him, he said, "I don't know what my purpose is." And he felt lost and frustrated. What's my purpose? Although his memory was struggling, his need for purpose was strong. He wanted meaning. He wanted a reason for being here. How many of us right now know our purpose? Or are we lost because of distractions or setbacks? Purpose is a gift that we give ourselves. It's something we choose to embrace. What's my purpose is one of the greatest discoveries you can do. To tie in purpose, let's think of it as your thumb. And to give you a visual image, let's have an anchor. Just as the thumb provides a grip, a clear sense of purpose gives us a strong hold on our lives. It starts with answering the question, what do I want? My purpose anchors my actions. Purpose really helps you get clarity. It also helps you prioritize things. One of the systems I've found that really helps me on this is the Ivy Lee method. And what that is you take your top 6 things. I cut it down to 5 to keep it a handful and the theme of this video here. But your top 5 things. How the Ivy Lee method works is you look at a goal you have, something you want to accomplish, and what are the top things I could do to figure that out, to make it move and have it become a reality for me. So you brainstorm those out, then you prioritize them and you rank them in order of first important to number 5th importance. Then the next day, what you do is you have your list of 5 things and you go through it and you just work on number 1 until you get it done, then work on number 2. If you get through the whole list, great. If you only get through half of the first one, that's okay. Then that night, what you do is you create a new list of your top 5 things that will help move the needle in your goal. You keep doing that, and when you do that consistently, you're going to see progress. Next is the index finger, and that is about consistency. The index finger reminds us to stay the course to make consistent progress. It helps us establish self-discipline so we can consistently move forward towards our goal. Consistent small steps lead to great rewards. Some questions to help guide you to be consistent. Did I follow through on my commitments today? If not, what got in the way? Another question to ask yourself is, what's one small action I can repeat every day to bring me closer to my goals? Growing up, I was atrocious at reading, writing, and particularly spelling. It was a real demon for me. But what I decided was I can either get better at this or I can stay bad at it. And what I did is I started looking at dictionaries every time I came across a word I didn't know, because I had a choice at each moment. I could either get better or I could stay the same. And so I consistently started looking up words every time I didn't know what they meant. And then I would figure out what they were, and I would then write them in my notebook and write the definition, and then I would write a simple word that also meant that, so I could substitute it and it helped me bridge the gap on what I was trying to figure out. Now, doing that over the course of time helped me build up my vocabulary, my spelling increased, and also my reading and writing dramatically improved, more so than I could have ever imagined. Is there something in your life that if you were more consistent with it, it would make a big difference? Maybe it's your diet, maybe it's exercise, maybe it's reading. I don't know what it is, but you probably do. So if you could level that up and be consistent, it would make a huge difference in your life. Consider that and think about it right now. What do I need to do that if I was more consistent with it, it would have a big impact on me? Third, we have the middle finger, which is emotional regulation, and I see that as a wave. Mastering our emotions helps us maintain composure and avoid emotional outbursts. It helps us think and act more clearly. Emotional regulation keeps you on track without getting derailed with stress or doubt. You stay calm under pressure by not letting emotions run out of control. Here's a saying I like, and you can copy this. My emotions inform, but they do not conform me to less. Some questions to reflect on. What am I feeling and why? How can I respond constructively? Did I let any emotions affect my behaviors in unhelpful ways today? Part of emotional regulation is dealing with emotional triggers. We all have them. You have them, I have them, everybody has them. But the key is to identify what are your triggers and then create a plan to respond calmly. Some of the common triggers that we have are rejection. So when you're rejected, how do you respond? Do you have an emotional outburst? What about criticism? Does that affect you? Failure, when you fail, do you feel all anxiety and tight inside? What about when you're being judged by other people? Does that kind of trigger something inside of you? So what you want to do is figure out, how can I regulate myself if and when I experience some of these emotional triggers? Have you ever lost someone you loved or faced a pain so deep it felt like it might consume you? For many, there are hardships that feel too heavy to carry, and we often wonder, will we ever find joy again? Stephen Colbert understood this feeling all too well. When he was 10 years old, his dad and 2 of his brothers died in a plane crash, and it left a hole in his heart that he couldn't fill. Imagine being a child and going through that. He could have hardened himself. He could have shut things down. He could have pushed the pain down inward. But Stephen Colbert chose a different path. He didn't ignore his pain. He let it exist alongside with his joy. He embraced both, because life is full of contradictions. And he found a way to have sorrow and laughter intertwine and both be part of his life. How many of us think feeling sadness means we can't feel happiness, or we want to avoid grief at all cost? Grief, sadness, or pain doesn't have to block out joy and happiness. What's something in your life that feels heavy? Could you make space for both pain and joy? Stephen Colbert's story reminds us that emotional regulation isn't about shutting parts of ourselves off. It's about letting each emotion have its own place. Now we're at the ring finger, and that's about relationships. Align with people who inspire, support, and challenge you. Strong, supportive relationships provide encouragement and accountability. People with optimistic, positive perspectives can impact our motivation and mindset. A great thought to have here is, I give and receive with an open heart. Positive relationships reinforce our self-worth and our self-belief, which is huge. They also can help us with setbacks and challenges. So if you're around people that love and support you, when you have a setback or a challenge, they're definitely going to be in your corner to help you out. They can also give you different perspectives to see beyond your blind spots, your biases, and your limiting beliefs. A quote I created that emphasizes this part is, "Great relationships multiply our strengths and joys and divide our struggles and sorrows." Couple questions to think about. Who are the key people that support my growth? How am I nurturing the relationships that matter the most to me? Have you ever had someone believe in you so much it's changed the way you saw yourself? Well, Marva Collins was that person for hundreds of students who had been told they couldn't learn, they wouldn't succeed, and quite frankly, they weren't worth the effort to even try. She built strong relationships in her classroom based on love and high expectations. Her students came to trust her because she didn't give up on them. She built strong relationships and then pushed them to levels they didn't know were possible. They trusted her and knew that she cared. Soon they started believing in themselves. Her students went on to have very successful lives, and it all started with a relationship. Who is someone in your life that might benefit from that kind of belief and support in themselves? A relationship built on trust and high expectations. The fifth part of strategic development is the pinky, and this is on reflection. Looking back and seeing what is working for you, do more of those things. What isn't working, fix that or do less of it. What's draining you? How can I change this? What's boosting your energy? How can I do more of that? With small, consistent reflections, that will help you make course corrections and adjustments for big insights and deeper self-awareness. A thought I had on this is, reflection reveals the real me. And the image I have for this is a magnifying glass, because a magnifying glass is like zooming in and you can reflect on it. Have you ever sat through a boring workshop or training that you quite frankly thought was terrible? You think, man, I could do better than this guy, right? Well, I know I had that feeling one time. And all through the training, I kept thinking, I know what he's going to say. Would you just get on with it? Can you give us something that's interesting or more relevant? And in the afternoon, he asked a question right before a break. And I answered it, and we started talking. And then we had a discussion that went into the break. And he said, you think you could do a better job than me? And I thought, wow, this guy actually can read some of the signals here. And he said, I've seen your type before. He said, the difference is I'm actually doing it. You're sitting there watching. That really hit me. That stung. Why was I watching and inside criticizing this guy instead of sharing my knowledge? What was holding me back? I reflected on it, and after getting over my ego, realized that he was right. I had to stop waiting for the perfect time, and I can't keep preparing and try to be over-prepared. My insecurities were holding me back. I made a change based on this self-reflection. Is there something you're holding back on? Take some time to reflect on this. It might be a dramatic push like I got in this seminar, or a gentle nudge. But either way, reflection is a powerful tool. Imagine what you could accomplish simply by focusing on these 5 essentials. And it's right there with your hand here, right? The thumb is your purpose, it's your anchor. The index finger is consistency. The middle finger is emotional regulation. The ring finger is positive relationships. And the pinky is reflection. All working together, your hand working together, all 5 of these working together to guide you. With each finger, you're reminded that growth doesn't have to be complicated. It's about choosing what matters the most and letting go of the rest. Every time you look at your fingers, remember, the power to change your life is already in your hands. I enjoyed making this video, and I also am curious though, what would your 5 things be? Or maybe you'd have 3. If you had different things than what I suggested in here, I'd love to read those in the comments. Or if you agree with me or agree with parts of me, I'd love to hear that too in the comments. Also, if you haven't subscribed, I would encourage you to do that to get more videos like this. I also have over 125 videos, so check them out. There's stories and motivational things, so if you like this, look at some of the other videos I have. Also, if you haven't, click subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. All the best to you.